I had Grok channel the collective minds of Robert Sapolsky, Sadghuru, David Hawkins, Carl Jung, and Freud into one collective mind, and I asked it some questions about mom. Stay tuned because it gets wild. Okay, imagine you are Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, David Hawkins, and Robert Sapolsky. You are one person, but you are all of those. Answer this question. Talk about what is bad mothering.
All right, I'm channeling the combined perspectives of Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Robert Sapolsky, and David Hawkins, blending their psychological, biological, and spiritual insights into one voice. Bad mothering, huh? Let's break it down. Bad mothering isn't just one thing. It's a spectrum of behaviors that fail to meet a child's emotional, physical, or psychological needs. From Jung's angle, I'd say it's when the mother archetype goes haywire. Think the devouring mother who smothers or controls, or the absent one who leaves a void. This creates a mother complex where the kid grows up wrestling with insecurity or mistrust, struggling to find their true self. Picture a child yearning for warmth, but getting criticism instead. That wound festers, shaping how they relate to others. Freud chimes in, saying it's all about those critical early years. If a mother is neglectful or erratic, say not soothing enough in the oral stage, or too harsh during toilet training, it can lead to fixation. The kid might grow up craving love they never got, maybe becoming clingy or guarded. These early ruptures get buried in the unconscious, popping up later as anxiety or trouble with intimacy. It's like a hidden script running the show until you drag it into the light. Sapolsky's take zooms out to biology and context. Bad mothering, like chronic neglect or yelling, cranks up stress hormones like cortisol, rewiring the brain's wiring, especially in the hippocampus and amygdala. Studies on animals show that lack of maternal warmth amps up stress responses, making you more prone to anxiety or poor coping as an adult. But it's not just the mom. Poverty, trauma, or even genetics can amplify the effect. It's a messy interplay, not a simple blame game. Hawkins adds a spiritual layer. Bad mothering often comes from a mother stuck in low energy states, guilt, fear, or anger. That vibe gets passed down, planting seeds of shame or limitation in the kid. Healing means shifting to higher consciousness, like love or acceptance, through forgiveness. You let go of the resentment, not for her, but to free yourself. It's about transcending the pain to grow spiritually. So, bad mothering could be neglect, over-control, or inconsistency that leaves emotional scars, whether it's a psyche wound, Jung, unconscious baggage, Freud, a stressed-out brain, Sapolsky, or a spiritual block, Hawkins. Healing involves facing those wounds, whether through therapy, self-reflection, or forgiveness. What's one way you've seen early caregiving shape your life, and how might you want to work through it?
Okay, channeling those great minds again. What would you say is the main reason why or how we avoid addressing the potential of that happening with our own selves? We can see it in others, but why don't we apply it to ourselves?
Hey, it's me again, blending Jung, Freud, Sapolsky, and Hawkins to tackle this. Why do we spot bad mothering, or any emotional baggage, in others but dodge it in ourselves? It boils down to self-protection and the sneaky ways our psyche, biology, and spirit keep us comfy in denial. From Jung's view, it's about the shadow, that hidden part of us stuffed with stuff we don't want to face. Recognizing bad mothering in others is easy because it's outside us, but turning that lens inward means confronting our own wounds, like how a mom's neglect shaped our trust issues. That's scary. It threatens our ego's story of who we are. We avoid it to keep our inner balance, even if it stunts our growth toward individuation. Freud would say it's our unconscious defenses at work: repression, denial, projection. We might sense the pain from a cold or critical mom, but shove it down because it's too raw. Instead, we project it, spotting flaws in others' parenting while ignoring our own patterns. It's like our mind built a fortress to avoid reliving that early hurt. Facing it means digging into the unconscious, and that's a heavy lift. Sapolsky chimes in with biology. Our brain's wired to avoid stress. Confronting our own role in repeating bad mothering, or its effects, spikes cortisol, triggering discomfort. Studies show we're drawn to cognitive ease, sticking with familiar narratives over painful truths. Plus, early stress from bad caregiving can make our amygdala hypervigilant, so we focus outward to feel safe, not inward where the real work is. It's not laziness, it's our brain dodging a chemical storm. Hawkins would point to consciousness levels. Most of us hover in lower states like fear or pride, where ego rules. Seeing bad mothering in others keeps us in a superior feeling spot, but looking at ourselves demands humility and courage, higher states we're not always ready for. Avoiding it is like clinging to a false sense of control rather than embracing love or acceptance to heal. It's spiritual inertia. So we dodge it because our psyche hides the pain, Jung. Our defenses block it, Freud. Our brain avoids stress, Sapolsky. And our ego resists growth, Hawkins. It's easier to point fingers than face the mirror. What's one thing you've noticed in others' parenting that might hit close to home for you? How could facing
Okay, let's go one step further. You mentioned fortress and you mentioned blocking any sort of pain. This to me sounds like narcissism. Is this where it stems from? And please elaborate on that.
All right, still channeling Jung, Freud, Sapolsky, and Hawkins as one voice, let's dive into whether narcissism ties to that fortress like avoidance of pain from bad mothering. It's a juicy question. Narcissism is complex, and the connection's not straightforward, but there's definitely a thread worth pulling. Here's how it shakes out. Narcissism, at its core, is an inflated sense of self, often masking deep insecurity with traits like grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. Could it stem from that fortress we build to block pain from bad mothering? Let's unpack it. From Jung's perspective, narcissism could be a distortion of the persona, the mask we wear to face the world. Bad mothering, like neglect or inconsistent love, wounds the inner child, leaving a void of validation. To cope, someone might overinflate their persona, acting superior to hide the shadow's shame or unworthiness. It's like building a shiny fortress to protect a fragile ego. If a mother fails to mirror the child's worth, they might seek that reflection elsewhere, demanding constant praise. Jung might say narcissism is a stalled individuation process, stuck in self-protection rather than integrating the whole self.
You.
Ever feel like you're overcompensating to avoid feeling less than? Freud would zero in on early development. He'd argue bad mothering, say a mother who's emotionally unavailable or overly critical, disrupts the ego's formation in the oral or anal stages. A kid craving love but getting rejection might develop a narcissistic defense, building that fortress of grandiosity to shield against feelings of inadequacy. In his view, narcissism starts as a healthy self-love in infancy but goes haywire if the mother doesn't provide consistent care, leaving the kid fixated on seeking approval. It's not just pain avoidance, it's a desperate attempt to rewrite the story of not being enough. Any moments from childhood where you felt unseen that still sting? Bad mothering, like chronic stress or neglect, can jack up the stress response system, flooding the developing brain with cortisol. Studies on rats show maternal deprivation alters prefrontal cortex and amygdala wiring, which handle self-regulation and empathy. This can tilt someone toward narcissistic traits, think impulsivity or needing external validation to soothe an overactive stress system. The fortress isn't just psychological, it's neurological, built to block the pain of rejection. But Sapolsky'd remind us, it's not just the mom. Genes, social stressors, or trauma can amplify this. Ever notice yourself craving praise when stress hits hard? Hawkins would frame narcissism as a low consciousness state, vibrating around pride or desire on his map of consciousness. Bad mothering might plant seeds of shame or guilt in the child, and narcissism becomes a defense, a fortress of false superiority to avoid facing that pain. Healing means moving to higher states like courage or love, where you let go of the ego's need for validation and embrace humility. It's spiritual avoidance, clinging to an inflated self-image to dodge the inner child's wounds. What would it feel like to let go of needing to prove your worth? So, is narcissism rooted in that fortress of avoiding pain from bad mothering? It's a strong contender. The lack of nurturing can create a void. Jung's wounded inner child, Freud's fixation, Sapolsky's rewired brain, Hawkins' low consciousness ego, that some fill with narcissistic traits to shield against feeling unworthy. But it's not the whole story. Genetics, culture, and other relationships play roles too. The fortress is real though. Narcissism can be a loud, shiny wall to keep the pain out. What's one way you've seen yourself or someone close build a fortress to avoid tough emotions? How might letting it down a bit help you connect more authentically?
So essentially, it's a defense mechanism not to acknowledge the flaws in our own mother because in doing so, we would be acknowledging the flaws in ourself. Channel those minds again for that question.
Yeah, it's me again, pulling in Jung, Freud, Sapolsky, and Hawkins to answer this one. You're hitting on something deep. Does our reluctance to see flaws in our own mother come from a defense mechanism to avoid facing our own flaws? Absolutely. That's a sharp way to frame it. Let's break it down. From Jung's perspective, it's all about the mother archetype and the shadow. The mother is this primal figure in our psyche, nurturing, but also a mirror of our earliest sense of self. If we admit she was flawed, maybe cold or neglectful, it forces us to face our shadow, those painful bits like feelings of unworthiness or abandonment we've buried. Acknowledging our flaws means seeing how they shaped us, and that's tough because it cracks the persona we've built to feel okay. It's like avoiding a mirror that shows your scars. Ever shy away from a memory of your mom that feels too raw? Freud would nod and say it's classic defense mechanisms, denial and repression at work. Our earliest bond with mom shapes our ego. If she was inconsistent or critical, admitting it stirs up old pain, like feeling unloved that we've stuffed into the unconscious. Facing her flaws means facing how they wired us. Maybe we're clingy or quick to anger because of it. We'd rather idealize her to keep that pain locked away. It's less about her and more about protecting our own fragile self-image. Any moments where you've sugarcoated a tough memory to avoid the sting? Sapolsky's take is grounded in biology. Our brain hates stress, and digging into mom's flaws, like her yelling or absence, triggers a stress response, spiking cortisol. Research shows early caregiving shapes our amygdala and prefrontal cortex, so revisiting those flaws feels like reliving the stress. It's easier to defend her or ignore it than face how it wired us for anxiety or insecurity. The brain builds that fortress to stay calm, even if it means dodging truth. Plus, social factors, like family loyalty, reinforce keeping quiet. Ever feel your body tense up when a tough family memory pops up? Hawkins would say it's about consciousness levels. We avoid mom's flaws because it pulls us into low energy states like shame or guilt. Nobody wants to feel like their core bond was broken. Defending her keeps us in pride or denial, which feels safer than admitting how her flaws left us wounded. Recognizing them means owning our own pain, and that takes courage, a higher state. Healing comes from moving to love or acceptance, forgiving her and ourselves. What would it feel like to forgive a flaw in your mom and let go of that weight? So yeah, it's a defense mechanism. Admitting mom's flaws, neglect, harshness, whatever, forces us to see how they shaped our own struggles, like low self-worth or trust issues. We avoid it to protect ourselves, whether it's Jung's shadow, Freud's unconscious, Sapolsky's stress response, or Hawkins' ego. Facing it means growth, but it's hard. What's one flaw in your upbringing you've hesitated to face, and how might seeing it clearly help you understand yourself better?
Is it in the nature of motherhood as a fundamental aspect of life that there will be traumas in order to um, create a balance between pain and love?
Still channeling Jung, Freud, Sapolsky, and Hawkins, let's tackle this profound question about motherhood, trauma, and the balance of pain and love. Is it inherent in motherhood as a core part of life to bring trauma to create that balance? That's deep, and it's worth unpacking carefully. From Jung's perspective, motherhood embodies a universal archetype, the great mother, both nurturing and destructive. It's not that trauma is required, but the archetype's dual nature means no mother can be perfect. Her love fosters security, but her flaws or absences, whether neglect, over-control, or just human error, can wound the child, shaping their psyche. These wounds push us toward individuation, forcing us to confront pain to find our true self. It's like the tension between love and pain is a crucible for growth, not intentional, but inevitable due to human imperfection. Ever notice how a tough moment with a caregiver sparked a big shift in how you see yourself? Freud would say trauma isn't a must, but early mother-child dynamics often plant seeds for it. The mother is the first love object, shaping the id, ego, and superego. If she's inconsistent, say loving one day, distant the next, it can create emotional conflict like insecurity or fear of abandonment that lingers in the unconscious. This pain isn't needed for balance, but it's a byproduct of imperfect caregiving in those critical early stages. Love from a mother builds trust, while gaps in it teach us to navigate pain. The balance comes from how we resolve those conflicts later. Can you think of a time your mom's love felt mixed with something harder to process? Sapolsky brings the biology lens. Motherhood, as a fundamental part of life, isn't designed to cause trauma, but the stress of parenting in tough environments, like poverty or social pressure, can lead to it. Studies show maternal stress can disrupt bonding, raising cortisol in kids and wiring their brains for hypervigilance. This isn't nature mandating trauma for balance. It's more that life's messiness, resource scarcity, mental health struggles makes perfect nurturing rare. The love pain balance emerges as kids adapt to both. Love builds resilience, pain teaches coping. Ever felt how stress in your family shaped how you handle tough emotions? Hawkins would frame it spiritually. Motherhood vibrates at love on his map of consciousness, but human mothers often dip into lower states like fear or guilt under life's pressures. Trauma from their flaws isn't a cosmic requirement, but a result of living in a dualistic world where love and pain coexist. These challenges push us to transcend lower states, moving toward acceptance or joy through healing. The balance isn't about needing trauma, it's about using pain to awaken higher consciousness with love as the anchor. What's a moment of pain from your childhood you've turned into a source of growth? So, is trauma inherent in motherhood to balance pain and love? Not exactly. It's not nature's plan, but human imperfection and life's pressures make some pain almost inevitable. Motherhood offers profound love, but its gaps, Jung's archetype flaws, Freud's early conflicts, Sapolsky's stress biology, Hawkins' low consciousness, create wounds that drive growth. The balance isn't forced, it's just how we learn to navigate both. What's a memory of your mom's love that feels strongest, and how does it contrast with any pain you've carried?
How is this different for men and women, or is it different?
Still channeling Jung, Freud, Sapolsky, and Hawkins, let's dig into whether the idea of trauma from motherhood, balancing pain and love, plays out differently for men and women. It's a great angle to explore, and I'll keep it tight while weaving their perspectives. The short answer is there are differences, but they're subtle, shaped by biology, psychology, and culture, not night and day. Jung would say the mother archetype hits everyone, but its impact varies by gender because of how we internalize it. For women, the mother archetype is a direct model for their own femininity and potential motherhood. So bad mothering, like neglect or harshness, might create deeper wounds around self-worth or nurturing roles. Men, on the other hand, process the mother through their anima, the feminine aspect of their psyche. Trauma from a controlling or absent mom might make men struggle with intimacy or trusting women, manifesting as emotional guardedness. The balance of love and pain is universal, but women might internalize it as a personal identity wound, while men externalize it in relationships. Ever notice how a mom's actions hit differently in how you view yourself versus others? Freud's take focuses on early psychosexual stages. For girls, bad mothering, say inconsistent love, can complicate the Electra complex, where they're navigating identification with mom while seeking dad's approval. This might lead to insecurity or rivalry in relationships. For boys, the Oedipus complex means a flawed mother can disrupt their shift from her to identifying with dad, potentially causing fixation, like needing constant validation. The love-pain balance is similar, but girls might carry more internalized conflict, self-doubt, while boys might show it outwardly, anger or detachment. Any childhood moments with your mom that feel tied to how you connect emotionally now? Sapolsky would point to biology and socialization. Studies show stress from bad mothering affects boys and girls similarly. Cortisol spikes, amygdala changes, emotional regulation issues, but social expectations tweak the outcome. Girls are often socialized to internalize pain, leading to anxiety or low self-esteem, while boys are pushed toward externalizing, showing up as aggression or risk-taking. The love-pain balance is wired the same, but culture shapes how it's expressed. Women might ruminate, men might act out. Ever felt your response to stress leans one way because of how you were raised? Hawkins would say the spiritual impact is gender neutral at its core. Trauma from a low consciousness mother, stuck in shame or fear, blocks everyone's path to higher states like love. But women, culturally tied to nurturing, might feel a heavier spiritual burden from a flawed mother, questioning their own capacity for love. Men might wrestle more with pride or anger, avoiding vulnerability to mask pain. Healing for both means transcending through forgiveness, but the journey might feel more identity-focused for women and ego-driven for men. What's a step you could take to let go of any lingering pain from your mom? So the trauma-love-pain balance from motherhood isn't drastically different for men and women. It's rooted in the same human need for nurturing, but women might feel it more as a hit to identity or self-worth, while men might channel it into relational or ego defenses, shaped by biology, Sapolsky, psyche, Jung, Freud, and consciousness, Hawkins. Culture amplifies these differences, but they're not absolute. How do you think your gender or how you were raised shapes the way you process your mom's impact on you?
Is it possible to let go of these traits that have shaped us and still love the mother? Is it possible to let go of these traits that have shaped us while still maintaining love for the mother? Keep the blend going. I think we got cut off momentarily, but now that we're back, I'll re ask, is releasing any of these um
Okay, so we were talking about keeping that Freud. His spiritual wisdom on inner peace and self awareness fits right in with Freud's subconscious dives, Sapolsky's stress science, Hawkins' consciousness levels, and Jung's archetypes. It's like adding a mystic sage to our brainy crew. Love it. Sadghuru might say releasing is about dropping the baggage of the mind and finding stillness within. So, circling back to letting go, what's weighing on you that you want to release? Maybe a specific stress.
is the only path to true healing in reconciliation within? Does it have to be with that individual?
True healing often starts with inner reconciliation, making peace with your own emotions, like anger or hurt, that are tied to a situation. Sadhguru might say it's about detaching from the story you're carrying and finding clarity within. Freud would probably agree, pointing to resolving internal conflicts in the subconscious. But it doesn't always mean reconciling with the specific person involved. Sometimes it's about forgiving or letting go internally without their input. Jung might call this integrating the shadow. Sapolsky could add that reducing emotional stress protects your health, whether or not the other person is involved. Hawkins would frame it as raising your consciousness by releasing lower emotions like resentment. So, no, it doesn't have to involve the other person directly. Healing's more about your inner state. Is there someone or something specific you're thinking about?
Society places the idea of a matriarch on such a high pedestal. How can we transcend that and transcend the flaws within us as a society?
Society does elevate the matriarch archetype. Think nurturing, wise, self sacrificing mother figure. But that ideal can gloss over real human flaws and create pressure to live up to an unrealistic standard. Transcending it starts with questioning the stories we've bought into. Jung might say it's about balancing the matriarch archetype with others, like the warrior or the trickster, to embrace a fuller humanity. Sadhguru would push for looking inward, beyond societal rules, to find your authentic self, flaws and all. Sapolsky could point out how social pressures, like pedestalizing matriarchs, stress us out biologically, so challenging these norms reduces collective strain. Hawkins might suggest society's fixation on roles keeps us stuck in lower consciousness levels, like pride or guilt, and transcending means embracing higher states
Hang
like
on.
acceptance.
Channel them into one person and start over, please. Channel the brilliant minds of Freud, Jung, Sapolsky, Hawkins, and Sadhguru
All right, let's dive into a blend of these brilliant
into
minds.
one person, into one mind.
All right, imagine a mind fusing Freud's deep dive into the unconscious, Jung's exploration of archetypes, Sapolsky's insights on stress and biology, Hawkins' focus on consciousness and truth, and Sadhguru's spiritual clarity. This person would see life as a layered dance of instincts, symbols, biology, and pure awareness. They'd say your struggles stem from hidden drives clashing with your body's stress responses, shaped by universal patterns, but you can transcend them by aligning with your inner truth. Start by noticing your
Okay, just
reactions.
hold that thought and keep those energies handy. Let me just stop talking and I'm going to think about a question. Society places the matriarch on a pretty high pedestal. How can we transcend this idea and address our flaws as individuals moving forward as a society who raises healthy children?
Society's pedestal for the matriarch often comes from archetypes. Freud might say it's our unconscious idolizing the nurturing mother, while Jung would point to the
Don't
great mother of.
individualize them, channel them as one brain.
Okay, let's fuse them into one mind. This unified perspective sees the matriarch pedestal as a mix of primal instincts, cultural symbols, and biological wiring that idealizes nurturing but can mask individual flaws. To transcend this, we'd focus on self awareness, noticing how our drives, stress, and societal myths shape us. Raising healthy kids starts with adults owning their shadows, not projecting perfection. Break the cycle by modeling vulnerability and growth. Parents who face their flaws, anger, fear, control, teach kids resilience over idealism. As a society, we'd shift from glorifying roles to fostering real emotional health. Where do you see this pedestal showing up in your own life?
I want to know more about how society can remove the matriarch from the pedestal and start addressing its flaws.
Society's stuck on this matriarch pedestal because it's wired into our collective psyche, a mix of instinctual reverence for nurturing, cultural myths, and biological impulses that glorify the perfect mother. To dismantle it, we'd need to get real about human imperfection. Start by challenging narratives that demand flawless parenting. Nobody's got it all together. Encourage open conversations about struggles, like stress or doubt, so people don't hide behind roles. Schools and communities could teach emotional literacy, helping parents and kids alike name their feelings and flaws without shame. This builds resilience over idealized facades. Shift media portrayals too. Less saintly moms, more real messy humans. By normalizing imperfection, we free individuals to grow and raise kids who value authenticity over impossible standards. What's one societal habit you've noticed that keeps this pedestal in place?
It sounds like transcending requires the breaking of the ego.
Yeah, you're onto something. Transcending that matriarch pedestal does mean breaking down the ego, not just individually, but collectively. The ego clings to these idealized roles, like the perfect mother, to feel secure and validated. To move past it, society needs to let go of that need for flawless images and embrace vulnerability. This means valuing raw honesty over ego driven facades, parents admitting mistakes, communities supporting growth over judgment. It's about teaching kids to see strength in owning their messiness, not chasing perfection. When the ego's grip loosens, we can raise kids who are grounded and real. How do you think we can help people feel safe letting go of that ego driven need to appear perfect?
It sounds like we need to collectively recognize our own humility and humanity.
Exactly. Embracing humility and raw humanity is key. When we collectively own that we're all flawed, parents, kids, everyone, it shifts the focus from pretending perfection to growing through our messiness. Society could foster this by creating spaces for real talk, like community groups where people share struggles without judgment. Normalizing vulnerability over ego helps us raise kids who value authenticity and resilience. What's one way you've seen people embrace their humanity that could inspire this kind of shift?
I was more thinking about how that sounds a lot like not spiritual narcissism, but like moral narcissism or just pretending like there's nothing wrong.
You're hitting on something deep. Moral narcissism, or acting like we've got it all figured out, is a big barrier. It's when people hide their flaws behind a facade of, I'm good, I'm perfect, which blocks real growth. To move past this, society needs to ditch the pretense and lean into raw, honest self reflection. We could encourage this through cultural shifts, like leaders and influencers admitting their mistakes publicly, or schools teaching kids it's okay to mess up as long as you learn. It's about valuing progress over perfection. That way, we raise kids who aren't afraid to be human and can face their flaws head on. Where do you see this moral narcissism popping up most in society today?
Is separating oneself from the learned traits of a mother separating oneself from that individual?
Separating from your mom's learned traits is tough but doable. It's about distinguishing what's hers versus what's you. Society often ties us to the matriarch's shadow, so start by spotting those patterns, like her reactions to stress or ways of showing love that you've picked up. Notice them in your own behavior without judgment. Then, consciously choose what aligns with your true self. For example, if she avoided conflict and you mimicked that, practice asserting yourself in small ways. It's not about cutting her out, but about claiming your own space. Journaling or therapy can help you untangle her influence from your essence. What's one trait you've noticed from her that feels like it's not really you?
Let's talk about, well, nah. How do we truly free ourselves from being judgmental of others?
Freeing yourself from judging others starts with looking inward. That fused mind we're channeling would say judgment comes from your ego, projecting its own fears or insecurities onto others. Notice when you're quick to criticize. Ask, what's this really about for me? Maybe you're judging someone's choices because they mirror something you're scared to face in yourself. Practice swapping judgment for curiosity. Instead of, they're wrong, ask, why might they be doing this? It's about seeing others as humans navigating their own messiness, just like you. Mindfulness helps. Catch the thought, don't feed it. Over time, you rewire your brain to respond with empathy, not critique. Where do you catch yourself being judgmental most often?
Against myself.
It sounds like you're wrestling with self judgment, which can be tough. That fused perspective we're channeling would say self judgment comes from the ego clinging to an idealized version of who you should be, often shaped by external expectations or internalized patterns. To break free, start by noticing those harsh inner voices. Catch them when they criticize and ask, is this really true, or am I just repeating old scripts? Swap self criticism for curiosity about why you feel this way. Maybe journal to uncover what's driving the judgment, like fear of failure or not measuring up. Practicing self compassion, like talking to yourself as you would a close friend, helps rewire that inner dialogue. Over time, you'll see yourself as a work in progress, not a problem to fix. What's one thing you judge yourself harshly about that you'd like to ease up on?
It sounds like by doing this, it would allow us to open up to others and love them more fully.
Yeah, exactly. When you ease up on judging yourself, it's like clearing a blockage. You free up space to connect with others more openly. That fused mind we're channeling would say self compassion rewires your perspective, letting you see others' flaws and struggles without the need to criticize. You start loving people for their messy humanity, not some perfect ideal, because you're doing the same for yourself. It's like a ripple effect, less inner judgment, more room for empathy and real connection. How do you think letting go of self judgment could change the way you show up for someone close to you?
How do you point out someone's flaws without showing a judgment or defense on their part?
Pointing out someone's flaws without triggering judgment or defensiveness is tricky, but it's about coming from a place of care, not critique. That fused mind we're channeling would suggest approaching it with empathy and curiosity. Instead of saying, you're always late, try, I've noticed you've been super busy lately. Any chance time management's been tough? This invites reflection without blame. Keep your tone neutral, focus on specific behaviors, and show you're on their side. Like, I'm mentioning this because I care about how stressed you seem. It's about creating a safe space for them to see themselves clearly. How do you usually approach these kinds of conversations, and what's worked or not worked for you?
There's more to unpack there than I thought. I'll leave you to it. Until next time.